Hello everyone, welcome to Digital Decade. This is UK, an alliance of 4 countries. The first and central country included in this union is England. The second one is Wales. The third country in this union is Scotland. And the fourth one is Northern Ireland. But some elements in Scotland no longer want to be part of this union. Rather, they want to become a separate, independent country. In June 2022, former First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, demanded in Parliament that on October 19, 2023, that is this year, another referendum will be held throughout Scotland to separate from the UK. According to Sturgeon's three-phase plan, in the first phase, she made a request to the UK Parliament to hold a referendum. Her demand was rejected by Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK at the time. After the demand was rejected, she took the matter to the UK Supreme Court to ask whether there was a chance in which the Scottish Parliament could hold a referendum. But here, she also faced failure. According to the court ruling, the Scottish Parliament could not hold a referendum for independence unilaterally, but for this, the approval of the Westminster, the UK Parliament, will be compulsory. After the court ruling, when all legal avenues were closed, she announced that his party, the Scottish National Party (SNP), would take part in the next general election in the United Kingdom as a de facto referendum. This is on the single issue that we want independence. This means that if her party gets more than 50% of the vote, it will be proved that the Scottish people should get independence. Now the three questions would arise. 1. Why should Scotland want to separate from the UK? Second, has there been a referendum for Scottish independence before? Third, what will happen to the UK if Scotland leaves the UK Union? We will find out answer to all these questions, but first, let's find out when and why Scotland became a part of the UK. The history of Scotland joining the UK coalition is also interesting. It was 13th century. The Kingdom of England invaded and claimed Wales. In the 1530 to 1550, Wales formally became part of the Kingdom of England under the Treaties of Union. Meanwhile, England also attacked Scotland in the north but could not succeed. At the end of the 17th century, Scottish government decided to establish a colony in Panama. After seeing other European nations, Scotland's decision proved to be a burden on weak economy, and it was mired in debt. Scotland joined the Union with England and Wales in 1707 to get rid of the burden of debts, and so Great Britain came into being. After that, in 1801, the Irish Ireland also became a part of Great Britain, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland came into existence, which we call now the UK. The southern part of the island separated from the Union in 1922 and became an independent country. It was about how UK came into being. Let's move on to our topic. Now, find out whether there has been a referendum for Scottish independence before, and if so, what motivated it and what were the results. And now this time it could be different. A referendum for independence was held in Scotland in the year 2014. The demand for transfer of more powers from the UK government is not new, but has been going on since the mid-19th century. Scottish people believe that they have their own distinct identity, culture, and history, so they should have full control of all their affairs. This has been worked on various times, but Scotland got the right to form the present parliament through an act in 1998. After that, control of local administration also came to Scotland. The major political party that calls for freedom and independence is the SNP, Scottish National Party. In addition, other main political parties of the UK that are Liberal Democrats, Labours and Conservatives also have been in favour of devolution in the past, but are not in favour of full independence for Scotland from the UK. In election held since the formation of the Scottish Parliament, the Labours won a majority. When the SNP came to power for the first time in 2007, it intensified its campaign for independence. The SNP also promised its people for independence in the coming years, but no concrete steps have been taken on it because his government was supported by the unity alliances. This desire for independence have always been criticized by the central government of the UK. In 2011, the SNP, Scottish National Party, once again won the election with a large margin and clear majority. This time they also announced that the second half of the government period, that was sometimes between 2014 to 15, hold a referendum. Surprisingly, the UK government accepted Scotland's demand and authorized the Scottish Parliament to hold a referendum through the order section 30. This order came into effect under the Edinburgh Agreement in 2012. On September 18, 2014, a referendum was held in Scotland on whether or not to remain a part of the UK. The turnout of this referendum was about 85%. According to the results, 55% of the citizens believed that Scotland should remain part of the UK, that is, should not be an independent country. Thus, this referendum failed and Scotland remained a part of the UK. After the official announcement of the results, the First Minister of the Scotland, Alex Salmond, said he supported the people's decision. He also called on the Scottish citizen to accept the democratic decision and follow it. It was about first referendum for independence. But you might be wondering that why Scotland is demanding a new referendum, though not even a decade has passed since the first referendum. The answer to this question is Brexit. You might know that UK was a member of the European Union. In 2016, the UK held a referendum on whether or not to remain part of the European Union. The UK itself is a union of 4 countries and was also a member of the European Union with full unity. Therefore, the 4 member countries of the alliance were also included in this referendum. Overall, according to the combined result of 4 countries, 52% of the people thought that the UK should not remain part of the European Union. These were the combined result of referendum. But if you look at individual results, 62% of the Scottish citizens wanted to remain part of the EU compared to 38%, while almost 56% of the Northern Irish citizens agreed with the Scottish people. Since the final decision was to be based on the overall results, so it was now decided that the United Kingdom would leave the EU. As Scotland was part of the UK, so this decision applied to Scotland as well as to the rest of the Union. Although a large number of Scottish citizens were opposed to the decision, which has been imposed on them, afterward the leader of the SNP and the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, said that leaving the European Union was contrary to the wishes of the Scottish people and it is an unacceptable. You have already seen the results, so this also seemed right. So this was the turning point after which the demand for a new referendum began to gain momentum. After that, Sturgeon requested a new independent referendum from the UK, but it was rejected. Let's find out what are the chances that a new re-referendum will happen or not. The answer to the question whether the referendum will be held or not is very clear. That it would happen in the near future is not visible at all. The first reason is that the situation has changed rapidly after Brexit. Now the feeling of separation from the UK have increased. A proof of this is the general election of 2019. SNP, Scotland National Party, won more than 80% of the seats in Scotland for the UK Parliament. Public confidence in the Nationalist Party was clear evidence that Scottish people did not want to leave the EU, and this vote was an expression of that angle. After the victory, Sturgeon said it was a clear message for the need for a new referendum. It should also be noted that SNP is also demanding that UK government to remove nuclear weapons from the Scotland. Scotland contributes 75% of the UK's gross national product, which is second after England. This is apparently a low percentage, but it is higher than Wales 3.5% and Northern Ireland 2.2%. so the UK cannot afford to lose the other largest country in this alliance. Here it is also important that if the UK government does not allow a referendum for some reasons and the Scottish government holds an unofficial referendum, then chances are quite high that other political parties in Scotland will boycott it. Thus many questions will be raised on the legality of this referendum. Now let's look at a hypothetical scenario that would happen if Scotland seceded from the UK. Scotland's cover 32% of the total area of the UK. In case of secession, the UK would not only lose a third of its territory, but also a large part of the North oil reserves would go from the UK to Scotland as it falls within Scottish waters. One position of the UK government is that to adjust budget deficit of Scotland, UK government pays a block grant to Scotland. Survival will be difficult for Scotland in case of independence. Here Scotland's position is that after independence, it will make up for its deficit with the North Sea oil fields, fishing and tourism. The population of Scotland is also the second most populous country in UK after England. In case of Scottish independence, the population of UK would decrease by 8.1%. Here you should also know that UK is currently the largest exporter of a particular type of alcohol in the world, and this wine is produced in Scotland. In the event of separation, the UK will obviously not be a major exporter. After leaving the Union, there is a very clear possibility that Scotland will become part of the EU. But if we look at Scotland's exports, 51% of the export go to the UK constituent countries along, while the rest of the world goes to 49% of Scotland's export. After independence, Scotland will leave the UK's common market. In this case of trade with the other states of UK, Scotland will have to meet taxes and certain other conditions. According to experts, this cost of trade will increase by 15 to 20% with the introduction of taxes, etc. In such a situation, it would not be a wise decision. Being part of the Union, Scotland follows the pound sterling and the central bank's monetary policy. In case of secession, it would obviously have to create its own new central bank and currency. At present, the Prime Minister of the UK is Rishi Sunak, and the First Minister of Scotland is Hamza Yusuf of Pakistani origin. Both have a heavy responsibility for solving the Scottish independent issue. Time will tell how these two come up with a solution to this problem. What do you think? Scotland should be a separated independent country, or is it beneficial for it to be within the United Kingdom? Be sure to write to us in the comments and also subscribe our channel for more such informative videos. And if you like this video, then share it with your friends and family. Thanks.